y'all, Dixie here. Today I want to talk to you about a backpacker's favorite subject, and that is food. I want to talk to you about some of the favorite meals that I ate while on the Pacific Crest Trail, and I'll kind of throw in some of what I've seen other people do, and maybe that'll help y'all have some creativity with your backpacking meals, or if you're planning your first backpacking trip, then it'll help you know kind of what people generally carry out onto the trail with them. First, I'm going to go over cook meals, so meals that you would cook, because I generally carry a stove. So then I will also go over meals that require no cooking, because for a short period of time on the PCT I had no stove. And I'll also go over some snacks and things like that at the end. So let's get started. First things first, let's start with breakfast, because it's the most important meal of the day, right? For breakfast, I start off with coffee because I can't even think about getting out of my sleeping bag until I have that. So I have my coffee, and most of the time I'll either mix it with powdered milk and honey, or I mix it with like a breakfast essentials or hot chocolate. Sure, they're sugary, but they've got calories, and that's what you need while you're backpacking and exerting yourself that much. And then while I'm sipping my coffee, I'll have oatmeal. Now I know some people tend to get bored of oatmeal. I haven't really gotten too tired of it yet, but I'll have oatmeal, might mix it up with like cream of wheat or grits, and my friend Perk swears that if you mix the three together that you burn them at different rates because they're different grains, so they last you longer in the morning. Don't know if that's true or not. That's just something he claims. I've never tried it, but so I'll eat one of those like breakfast cereals that you do cook, and if I want to kick it up a notch, then I might add like dehydrated fruit to the oatmeal, and then to the grits I might add like bacon bits and cheese. My main thing is even if I'm cooking in the morning, generally I try to make it something pretty quick like oatmeal, because I want to get packed up and get out of camp and start my day off, and I'm not very good at waking up early. The great thing about oatmeal packets or cream of wheat or grits is that if you don't want to put it in your pot, you don't have to, so it's kind of mess free, and again helps you speed things up in the morning. You can just pour your hot water right into the oatmeal packet, stir it, and eat it right out of there, and again that saves you from having a pot to clean. For lunch, I tend to take, a good at least hour-long break or so just to give my feet a rest, but I don't want to be cooking and cleaning that whole time. So again, if I'm going to cook for lunch, then I try to do something that's pretty quick and, not too messy. Most of the time I'm cooking Raymond Noodles, and I like to mix things into them. Raymond Noodles are so versatile, you can really add anything to them. You could put in jerky if you wanted to. Some people put in peanut butter and all sorts of things. I just can't do peanut butter anymore. I got myself worn out on that on the AT, but yeah, Raymond Noodles, it's basically like a canvas, and you can paint whatever picture of a meal that you would like to have. You get sick of something if you do it the same exact way for too long. Before we started the PCT, Perk gave me some mushrooms and some seaweed that he had found at an Asian food market, and I portioned it out and then had my mom send some to me along the way. But in the Sierra Nevada for lunch, I had that a lot. I would just do the Oriental flavored Raymond Noodles and then put in the mushrooms and seaweed, when it got close to cooking at the end. It's something that doesn't take a lot of fuel. Again, it's pretty quick, and it's not like something too saucy, so it's real easy to clean out of the pot. If I got sick of doing Raymond Noodles for lunch, I might do a pasta sides, because those are generally pretty quick in cook time. My favorite one, hands down, is the Fettuccine Alfredo. A lot of times I'd pack out spinach. The desert was a little hot for that, it would go wilty pretty quick. But if you're in cooler weather or even just like moderate temperatures, spinach will last you 3 to 4 days easily. So I just throw in a handful of spinach, and I could have put those mushrooms in there also that I was talking about with the Raymond Noodles. But really anything could go in Fettuccine Alfredo. Also, they have like the full packets of chicken, grilled chicken, so you could dump that in there, and be real fancy. Some people also like to mix tuna with their noodles, but that's another thing. Peanut butter and tuna, I'm pretty much almost done for life on those. I can handle them very sporadically, but again, the AT just totally ruined me on that. All right, so for dinner time now. Dinner time is where you're relaxing, you're enjoying the end of the day, you're hanging out with people. So I don't mind dinner taking a little bit longer to cook, or maybe more water. So if you're camped near a water source and you can have all the water you want, then I might cook something like mac and cheese, because it takes a good amount of water to boil all those noodles. So just like Kraft mac and cheese. Some people have done shells and cheese. I never did those on trail because I heard that it kind of made you sick or constipated. So I never tried those, but like regular Kraft mac and cheese, I could eat a whole box myself, no problem. And I began to be like this mac and cheese connoisseur. I'd try like the the Walmart brand and Kraft and the Dollar General brand, and, you know, just see which ones I liked, and honestly I kind of like all of them. But you want to do mac and cheese, like I said, when probably you're at a water source or you just have a plethora of water on you, because it does take a good bit. And I didn't add anything to my mac and cheese. I know some people like to add sriracha or bacon bits, but to me mac and cheese is perfect just the way it is, so why mess it up? Something else that takes a little bit more water than like Raymond Noodles or pasta sides is mashed potatoes. But mashed potatoes are also a very versatile meal, because you can do anything like jerky or you know, bacon bits. For me, I really liked cheese, bacon bits, and then mayonnaise. I never thought about that until towards the end on the PCT, but if you squirt a packet of mayonnaise in some mashed potatoes, they are heavenly. Also, it'll add extra calories for just a little extra weight. Lunch and dinner is interchangeable for the most part, like in the real world, but it's just gonna be, you know, where you're located at the time. Do you have time and do you have water? Because mashed potatoes don't take that long, but they take, you know, at least 2 cups of water, where pasta sides don't take much water or time, and then mac and cheese takes a lot of time and a lot of water. So, you know, it just depends, but you'll learn all that as you go. And then of course there are like the pre-packaged dehydrated meals, and one of my favorite ones was Paleo Meals to go. I just feel like I get so many carbs along the way, and I know you need carbs, but I felt like I ate so much junk, so to have a meal that was mainly meat and vegetables, I just really liked that. And while I didn't eat them for every meal, most of the time I would treat myself to a Paleo Meals to go at dinner time. Next I'm going to talk about non-cooked meals. So I was like, why on earth would anyone go out backpacking and not carry a stove? Because to me it's such, you know, a pick-me-up to have a hot meal during the day or after a long day of hiking. But there are reasons, you know, maybe there's a bad weather stretch coming up, and you know for a few days you're not gonna want to take the time to cook lunch while it's raining, or maybe you want to save the weight of a stove and fuel and you just don't want it at all. Also, maybe you're going through dry stretches and you don't want to have to worry about toting more water to cook lunch in a dry area. And then also you might want to save time, so you might be pushing yourself really hard to get a lot of miles done and you just don't want to take the time to sit down and cook. And for me, that's what it was. The first stretch that I went non-cook on the PCT, I bounced my stove ahead because Perk and I were doing the 24-hour challenge, and I knew that I wasn't going to take the time to sit down, you know, and cook a meal. It was going to be more like prop my feet up, shove something in my face, and then keep going. It ended up being a nightmare because where I bounced my stove ahead to, I didn't get there in time, so I ended up being several weeks without a stove, and so I got more familiar with non-cooking. I still have my coffee. I just mixed the instant coffee packet with cold water and an instant breakfast, and just shook it up. And while it wasn't as good as being hot, when you're an addict you gotta have that fix. For breakfast, my favorite thing was still oatmeal. I just didn't heat it up, and it actually rehydrates really well, and honestly I think that cold oatmeal might taste better than hot oatmeal, and if it wasn't for me liking something warm on cold mornings, then I probably would just not heat it up at all. And if I had known that in the warmer stretches, I, you know, probably would have saved fuel. And for my oatmeal, I would still throw in blueberries, strawberries, bananas, you know, just anything to just spice it up a little bit. I also really like donuts and Pop-Tarts. As far as the donuts go, I think powdered sugar and the coconut ones are definitely my favorite, and then Pop-Tarts, the brown sugar cinnamon. Towards the end, even when I had my stove, I started eating Cheerios with powdered milk and bananas and strawberries and blueberries, and that was absolutely delicious. I've done other types of cereal, but just having the Cheerios and then some kind of fruit to add to my diet was really, really good. So for lunch during my non-cooked stretches, a lot of times I just ate snacks. So I just kind of snacked all day. I would have like a dedicated breakfast and dinner, but I would snack all through the day. But if I was gonna have a dedicated lunch, then I really enjoyed eating Fritos and Frito bean dip. The crunch of the Fritos, I mean, they hold together pretty well. A lot of times if you pack out chips, they end up just like chip dust, but the Fritos, you know, hold together pretty well, and just dipping them in that bean dip, it was heavenly. For a while, I traded my friend Milestone, some kind of snack that I had in my pack, for her powdered hummus and little individual packets that she had of olives, and I would eat that for lunch with some crackers that she also had. So you get tired of things on the trail when you eat something, you know, over and over and over, and she had done a lot of pre-packaged meals and, you know, had packages sent to her and things, so she was sick of hummus by the time I met her, and so it was nice to be able to trade, you know, whatever I was sick of in my pack for that hummus. And that's something that I'll probably do for the CDT, is plan some of the powdered hummus and the olives. Probably my favorite thing for dinner during my no-cook stretch was tortilla, pepperoni or summer sausage, cheese, preferably pepper jack, and again, cheese will last a few days just like spinach, avocado and spinach, and wrap it all up, and that thing was good. And if you're a sauces person, you could throw some mayo on it, or you know, if you can find ranch packets or something like that. Those were my favorite meals as far as non-cooking goes. I did notice that probably the food that I carried during my non-cooked stretches was a little bit heavier than the food I carried when I was cooking, because most of it's something that has to be, you know, rehydrated with water. One thing that you could do though, if you wanted to no cook and you didn't want to carry some of that heavier stuff, you could do cold soaking, and I didn't do that while I was on the trail. It's something that I might test out on the CDT just so I could give some input, but you can get like a peanut butter jar or some kind of Tupperware that has a screw-on lid and do something like couscous, Raymond Noodles, instant rice, you know, just something that kind of rehydrates pretty quickly. So you just pour that stuff in the container, pour some water in there, let it soak for a while. You know, depending on what it is, it might take longer than other things. Mashed potatoes rehydrate almost instantly. Now, they're gonna be cold, so it might not be as good to you, but it is something that you could probably get used to. I've heard that Raymond Noodles with some mayo squirted in it, mixed up, is pretty good, kind of like a cold pasta, and especially if you added olives or something like that in there, that'd probably be pretty good. But just keep in mind that cold soaking is an option, you know, even if you want to carry some of those things that do need to be rehydrated. A lot of times when people decide not to cook, they don't want to carry a dedicated pot because they're not going to be cooking, but you could use like a mug and just carry it to have something to put on a fire if you want to heat up some water and pour into your Tupperware if you decide you do want a warm meal on a cold night. So next I want to talk about snacks, which are like my favorite thing in the world while I'm on trail. I was absolutely sick of bars, protein bars, you know, like Cliff bars, Kind bars, all that stuff. I can still do Kind bars a little bit, but I'm done with Cliff bars. So I just wanted to come up with some kind of snack that was easily accessible, but just wasn't the same old same that I had had on the AT and worn myself out on. My saving grace on the PCT was Snickers. I can't tell you how much I love those. So when I would resupply in town, I would make sure I got one Snickers for each day, because that way it could cheer me up if I was having kind of a bad part of the day, or you know, at the end of the day while I was cooking dinner, I could eat my Snickers, and I don't know, it was just something that I was able to look forward to, and I think little things like that are important while you're out on trail. I also really love Skittles, and for some reason that was like my go into town snack. So the day that I was heading into town, for some reason Skittles just would fire me up, you know, and eating those would get me excited about going to town. I also really loved Cheez-Its and Gummy Snacks. I don't know, gummies were like my life for a while. And I mean, that could be anything from like sour worms to like those Scooby Snack gummies. It didn't matter. If it was gummy, it was good. I also packed out some marshmallows at one point, and really supplies to do s'mores for a night, and then we ran out of those supplies. But we had marshmallows for the rest of the stretch, and during the Sierra Nevada, things like that were exciting. We would have fires at night a lot of times just to try to, you know, get us motivated for the next day, and it was kind of a relaxing day, and the camaraderie of people sitting around the fire. But being able to roast marshmallows was so much fun, and they make a good lightweight snack. Also in the Sierra Nevada, I really liked taking Mio, and you could just squirt it onto ice for slushies, so it was just like a slushy snack. If you want to do a more legitimate version, you can do Kool-Aid with sugar and water and mix it up and make, you know, a syrup to pour. But if you're just trying to do something quick that probably weighs less, because you know, making up a lot of syrup is kind of heavy, but the concentrated Mio just squirted onto a snowball is a pretty good snack. Something that I found towards the end and I got really excited about was a candy bracelet. I guess it's actually candy necklace, but I put it on my wrist as a bracelet, and just walking and, you know, eating the candy, it was pretty good, and you know, it took me back to my childhood, so that was kind of fun. I said I couldn't do peanut butter earlier, but I can't do straight peanut butter or like peanut butter on a wrap, but peanut butter crackers, I can still do that. And you know, you can buy a big pack of them, and they can be put in your hip belt pocket or an easy to reach place, and something quick and good to snack on. Something else that I really loved were Wasabi Peas. So those were good to just snack on, or to throw in Raymond Noodles, mashed potatoes, pasta sides, anything. They were just, you know, a good snack. And I mean, they're peas, so they can't be that bad for you. I also like to have cashews and almonds, those sandies with the pecans, and I love those baby food or just fruit squeeze packets. They were a nice morale booster. And then on shorter stretches, so say I was only out for like 3 days, so I'm not carrying, you know, 5 days of food, I would tend to go heavier because I would think, well, I'm used to carrying 5 days worth of food, and this time I'm only carrying 3 days worth, so if I go with heavier food, you know, it'll kind of offset it. So in those instances, I like to carry out, you know, more healthy food, so maybe apples, bananas, and especially avocados. And if you're wondering, you know, how do you keep your fruit and vegetables like the spinach and stuff like that from not being crushed or bruised too much? Well, I didn't put it in my food bag and carry it in the pack. I would put the vegetables and the more fragile foods in the back of my pack, so in the big pocket on the outside. I'd put it in there kind of tucked between my camp shoes, which were my sandals, to help pad it, and then the pack. And then I'd just be sure to be kind of careful when I threw down my pack not to throw it down, you know, on the back so it would smash that stuff. I'd just kind of lean it up against something. If you're wondering how some of these snack packages are easily accessible if they come in such a big container, you can empty them down into smaller Ziploc bags, and it also helps fit in your food bag that way. And yes, I know that does create more waste, but you can reuse your Ziploc bags to help with that. So I hope that gave you, you know, some ideas of maybe what backpackers eat if you've never been out backpacking before and you're looking into doing so. Those were my favorite things to eat on the Pacific Crest Trail. There are probably more that I haven't even thought of right now, but I just loved food. Towards the end, it got a little harder because, like I said, after eating the same thing over and over, you get kind of, you know, sick of it. But that's why it's always important to mix it up and try new things. And I know that a lot of people get concerned with calories and, you know, you're supposed to have 2 pounds per day of food and all of that, but you'll learn what you need. As long as you have some food, you're not going to starve to death in your first stretch. And if you're going on a thru hike, it takes a little while for that hiker hunger to kick in, but you'll know when it hits. And in my opinion, it's better to have a little bit too much food than not enough, because most of the time you can always pawn food off on other hikers or, you know, make trade with the extra food that you have. So I'm not going to go into the details of, you know, you have to eat this many calories, because I don't know. I've never calculated that. And I just make sure to have things that I do enjoy eating in my pack. And if that means that your pack has to be a little bit heavier, then go for it. One last pointer that I'll give you, which I learned from one of my friends on the Appalachian Trail, but he said, always eat your favorite thing in your pack, because that way you're always eating your favorite thing. And I was like, what? You know, but it does really make sense if you think about it. So, you know, some folks will tend to save like mac and cheese, like, oh, I want to save this for, you know, the last night before town because it's so special and I love mac and cheese. But like, maybe that last night before town, I won't even want that mac and cheese. So I should have eaten it when I wanted it. So when you open your food bag, the thing that you want the most, you might as well just go ahead and eat it, because that way, every time you open that food bag and you're eating something, you're eating exactly what you want right then. Even if, you know, it's like slim pickings towards the end, it's still the favorite thing that you want at that time. If y'all don't mind, I would love for you to comment what your favorite meals are or snacks while you're on trail. That way folks can go through and read them and maybe get some new ideas and, you know, help each other out, because you know, you just don't want to get sick of eating the same thing over and over and over. So it's always great to hear what other folks are doing. If y'all would like to help support this channel at no additional cost to you, the easiest way to do that is to go to dixieaz.com before you do your Amazon shopping, and you can just click there. It'll redirect you and you can go through my affiliate links. It doesn't cost you anything extra and it helps support the work I do here. And with that, we will see y'all next time.